Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
This is Byron O'Neill, your host for today's episode of the Cryptid Creator Corner. Today, I'm excited to welcome a guest I've wanted to have on for quite some time now, Steve Orlando. Steve is super busy right now with a ton of projects ongoing and dropping. Today, we're going to focus on his ongoing Marvel Comics series, The Scarlet Witch, and later in the show, we'll touch on his Mad Cave series, Exorcists Never Die. Steve, thanks for coming on the show with me today. How's things going?
Things are going very well. It's busy, but that's much better than the alternative,
Yep.
and busy by a lot of vectors. That's the freelance hustle, So, but I'm excited to be here and excited to take some time to talk. When I'm not doing comics these days, it's just very boring adult things. Figuring out how to plant my new lawn and shit. Now that I just bought a house, so comics, the much more interesting aspect of my life right now.
Oh, I totally understand. We just moved, so we're dealing with all of the outdoor stuff all over again. So, well, you have a ton of shit coming out right now. I personally been keeping up with Scarlet Witch, and I know the trade for the first 5 issues drops in like August, right? So let's kind of start
Yes.
there. Yeah.
I'd
Well,
be happy to. I believe for folks who are looking, I believe it comes out the last week of August, like off the top of my head, the 28th, but that is fully out of the ether. So,
okay.
but we're definitely towards the end of the month. And I've been waiting, man. Scarlet Witch is one of my favorite things I've done in quite some time. And I want to hold the trade. That's when it becomes even more real.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Wanda is this big character in the Marvel universe, right? Big power. Few characters have shaped the landscape across the continuum, kind of as much as Wanda has. I got introduced to her like in the mid '80s. Picking up West Coast Avengers run at a local gas station. So I've got some mileage with the character. At this point. But I really, really enjoyed where you went with her. We're kind of taking her away from that more Avengers, spotlight and placing her in a small town America as a shopkeeper, no less. So first, kind of why Wanda? What attracted you to her as a character?
I mean, I think Wanda is, and by the way, West Coast Avengers was the first comic I ever bought. Actually,
Nice.
it was West Coast Avengers 16. So you'll always hear me get excited when someone mentions West Coast Avengers. Um, for me, the thing about Wanda, a lot of people, of course, gravitate towards her because of her power, and I understand that. And I also like her for her power, but not in the way that sounds. I think to me, the story of Wanda is the story of one overcoming one's mistakes, one overcoming the hurdles that life throws at you. Many times, by the way, which you yourself create. And it's funny because she is phenomenally powerful, to soft quote Aladdin. But at the same time, like comics is a big, bold medium. So even though her personal struggles might have universe shaking consequences and ours don't, in a way, I think she's kind of a perfect allegory, even more than many other superhero and cape characters, for what we go through as people. I mean, many of it's rare to find a person who has had the journey Wanda has. It's not linear. It's not always an upward climb. There's backsliding. There's one step forward, two steps back, and sometimes the reverse. We like the reverse more. But that to me, perhaps paradoxically, makes her one of the most relatable and most humanistic comic book characters. Even though, of course, she can snap and turn the moon into soup, as Darcy says in the book.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you dropped her kind of as the curator of the Emporium in this small town of Lot Hill, New York, which gives me sort of this. Okay, it's a weird comparison, but like that Smallville vibe. Not directly, but it's populated with lots of normal people as opposed to a lot of supers. I kept thinking of the old black and white TV series Bewitched, where you have this powerful sorceress who's dropped into small town America. So I mean, obviously very purposeful, but why? Why did you use Lock Hill, New York, and want to put her in that environment?
Because I think that the time has come to show that what Wanda does and who she is, again, is more powerful than just snap, no more mutants, right? Like she has that power, but the way that she is, the person she is equally powerful in its own way, And how do you do that? You put her in situations where she is dealing with problems that are not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to blast it real good, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
And you show that, Scarlet Witch is someone who, yes, can go out and, battle the villain of your choice, Um, but she's also someone who can engage with more grounded struggles, more day to day neighborly struggles in a way that others maybe don't. You know, we say friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is your friendly neighborhood, which
Yep.
it plays differently in visuals and in power usage and in abilities usage, but in a personal level, I think it's very similar. You know, I don't think many people compare Peter Parker to Wanda, but in a way, I almost would, right? Because the allure, the sort of the prototypical Marvel character is that person who, no matter what their powers are and their costumed life is, they have struggles just like you. You know, Peter Parker broke the mold in the 60s because he was, even though he was Spider-Man, you know, he couldn't make rent, he couldn't get the girl. And in a way, this book is following on that tradition. Wanda, you know, is phenomenally powerful, but she still has issues. And she's still there for your issues. I think that we've seen Wanda, you know, blasting off into the cosmic and the different realities, and that may happen again for sure. Um, but there's more to being a hero, and even more to being powerful and strong than just being able to hit something real good. This was a chance to show who Wanda is and why she's special beyond her power set. I mean, you see in issue 6, which just came out, she gets to do plenty of blasting, of course,
Right.
but at the same time, her solution and her point of view and perspective after all the things that she's been through is really what saves the day and staves off a massive intergalactic conflict. It's not that she, you know, could she snap her fingers and just brainwash everyone to do what she wants? Probably, right? But that's not who she, even if that's who she was from time to time, it's certainly not who she is now. And it's not who she is now because she was that person and learned that that's not the way to get it done. It's not the way to get it done for a sustainable future. So I think that the appeal to me was taking this character who has all this power, but then, of course, to build this setup we have and to show it in unexpected ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got this really fun supporting cast with, Darcy Lewis, um, which kind of brings that levity, that with the direction that you kind of wanted to go into. It's one of the things I really enjoyed with the story. And there was this weird, like, maiden mother crone kind of thing of sorts with, like, Darcy and Wanda and the reintroduction of Agatha Harkness. So there's a lot of mentoring going on. It's like an evolution of Wanda, the more mature version of the character, where, as you said, she learns from her mistakes, and so this is kind of the next step. Darcy was kind of that first visitor through the last door, and in a way is the carefree spirit, I guess, that Wanda never got to be. So, kind of how are you using Darcy, and what was important to you about kind of including her as a focus, just as strongly almost as Wanda, really?
Well, I mean, I think when you have any type of character who walks in the worlds and realms that Wanda does, you need that humanizing element and you need that perspective. So on one level, that's what Darcy provides us. She's like us, you know. What's mundane to Wanda is fantastic to most mortal people, right? So
Yeah.
Darcy's there to sort of voice how we might look at things, and sometimes that means shock and awe. Sometimes that means being Wanda's cheerleader in a way that Wanda would probably be too humble to be. We have made Wanda sort of. I've enjoyed the moments of her sort of lightly humorous and condescending confidence when she's dealing with assholes. But she's still a relatively humble person because she's learned from being the opposite. And but Darcy isn't bothered by any of that. She's the one hooting and hollering and telling you the one is going to hand you your ass, or like snap and just redefine what an ass is in the first place.
Right.
And that makes her a really key part of the book. But the other thing is, it's really simple. Like I've said in interviews, it's not a secret. Like we're kind of trying to approach this book in the way you would like All-Star Superman or like a Superman book, because even
Okay.
though Wanda isn't an alien, her power is great, right? And just like writing Superman or the Century, if you want to keep it Marvel, the threats aren't always physical or energy based ones. They're usually character based threats. But when you think of it in that lens, Superman needs a Jimmy Olsen, right?
Yep.
And that is kind of the role Darcy fulfills, albeit in a much more sarcastic way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that sarcasm, that levity, that tonal shift you kind of infused into the book was awesome. It's far funnier than I typically associate with stories of Wanda, right? With lines like "Be gone, fool! Return with Necrodamus's rice milk," right? Like that. I was like, "What?" Okay, I knew this is going in a totally different direction with stuff like that. So
Well, like I mean, there has to be a little bit, right? If it's and if it's a little if it gets too dry, there's I don't know, it can feel kind of overbearing. The key is to like use the characters for where that fits. Like, yes, Necrodamus talks like that because when I looked up Necrodamus's past appearances, he just seemed like a over the top clown.
okay,
And at the same time, like again, like there's things that Darcy says, and that gets that feeling in there. But Wanda herself is not really. I mean, she's not a jokester. She can get a little one liner in from time to time. But to me, like it's always like in Road to Perdition, where Tom Hanks is like, you half the time you never know if he's joking or not. It's kind of like she's figuring out humor in front of our eyes. So because it doesn't fit her to be that, yeah, you got to build the characters around her that can bring that to the book because that's what keeps it fun, right? Like we're not full on like MCU action comedy in any way, but like you need the levity to balance out the big stakes and the big moment.
yeah, I mean, which is something that I get lost in with like the big cross-platform tie-ins and everything because I think it misses those moments. Like you introduce Thanos and these cosmic entities, and you have cosmic entities in this book too. But that was what was really pleasant about the way the story was laid out. Um, was you're taking and condensing it to real human experience. You know, that was the relatable aspect that you were talking about. So yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
yeah, I really dug it. Kind of having the last door in there as a real trump card for a serial issue narration format, because you can bring anyone in and you can switch up the direction kind of everything from pacing to the emotional beats of the story. You could carry it on for a single issue for 3 issues. So, kind of talk to me about the door. Kind of where did that idea originate, and
Well,
why'd you want to use it?
we knew going into the book that we wanted to sort of take a step back from what has become the main style of comic book storytelling in the past, like definitely, I mean, let's say 20 years. Where I mean, like we come to expect a single story in a 4 to 5 issue arc, and at the time, like to be clear, like at the time when that stuff started, that was the change, that was the twist. But now, 20 years on, since stuff like the Authority and I mean, since decompression became a word people thought they knew what it meant, now that's the norm. So we wanted to like we didn't want to do a retro book because that has its own pitfalls, but we didn't want to hark back to the time where there was a macro story, but if you picked up any random issue of the book, you were also getting a complete story. And again, like that's the sort of when I say Superman, but when I nod specifically to All Star Superman, it's because that whole book is about him dying, but every issue has its own adventure.
Yeah,
And so, especially as comics become more expensive than they ever have been, we want to make sure that folks are getting something complete, something they can enjoy, something they can chew on, go back and read. And then, of course, yeah, we cliffhang you into the next month. We're not fools,
yeah.
but we want to make sure folks are getting everything they need every issue. Because listen, again, like times are money can be tight. We want to make sure people are getting a lot in every issue.
Yeah, I mean, the first 5 issues are out now, which will comprise kind of that first trade that we've been talking about. So it sort of seems like fair game. So enter Magneto, which is fair to say Wanda has a complicated past with. So what can you tell us about kind of big picture? Obviously, no spoilers here, but kind of how are you thinking of reintroducing these two and kind of using him?
Well, I really can't say a lot other than to say the thing that you just said has never been confirmed or denied in the book,
Right.
and that the answers are hiding in plain sight. And that's really all I can say.
Okay.
But I will point out that um, Wanda didn't get to say goodbye to Magneto. And so, regardless of what we're going to explore with the character that showed up at the end of issue 5 and the end of issue 6, this is a huge thing for her, and she wasn't there. And again, like in a way, this is I hate to keep making it about Superman. This is a Marvel book, but at the same time, like this is kind of for all her power, right? Not only could she not save Magneto, she wasn't even there. And it is kind of like Jonathan Kent having a heart attack for all these powers, and I couldn't save him. Well, that's her, like she wasn't there. Could she have beaten Uranos? We'll never know because she wasn't there. She was occupied somewhere else. She was, you take your pick, but wherever she was, there's only one place she had to be in the entire universe, and that's not where she was. So I think there's a lot to unpack there, and you want to talk about what leaves Wanda vulnerable. It's not doesn't always have to be a magic-proof metal, you know. So whether this is Magneto, whether this is someone else appearing as Magneto, whether it's a third option, the point is that this is the phase that can hurt Wanda the most. So what I can say emotionally can hurt her the most. So what I can say is that this is like nitroglycerin for the book. It's going to be a journey for her, and she's going to have you know irrational reactions and emotional journeys that are going to surprise people and be hard for her because when you get what you finally think you wanted, when she gets that chance to say goodbye or like gets another chance with Magneto, um you know you leap for that thing sometimes even in irrational ways. So when you come up against someone like the Scarlet Witch, these are the types of ways that you have to engage her and challenge her as a writer. I'm not even talking about what the plot is in the book, because that's the vulnerability, that's the weaknesses. And to be again, like the funny thing is that I almost feel that the more powerful a character is on the page when it comes to like the stats on the trading card, those to me, from my point of view, end up being the most humanistic characters because you have no choice but to challenge them in human ways. Like, I mean, if you're writing a Captain America, and I love Captain America, is one of my favorite Marvel characters. There are plenty of people like you can focus on the physical fights, and of course, you have to consider the character as well. But at the end of the day, a punch in the face from the right person can hurt him, and things like that. And not that that couldn't hurt Wanda, as we saw in issue 4 and 5. But when the deep pressure points are all based on character and humanity, like I think that ends up meaning that the most powerful characters are the most humanistic. Because at the end of the day, it's very hard to come upon someone like Wanda or someone like Jean Grey and just punch them into the ground. It has to be the subtle knife. It has to be the slow knife, like they say in Dune. So it's funny. It's like it comes all the way around. They're so powerful that you really can challenge them the most grievously in ways that are the most relatable and human.
Yeah, I mean, Wanda, the character, kind of defines complicated family to me.
And we're
We
leaning in, man. But so go on. I'm sorry, but yes, without question, it's the understatement of the year.
Yeah, exactly. We get to see some of those past traumas reintroduced in the first couple of issues, through various characters. When I first reached out to you, I was thinking, about doing that Pride Month focus. And timing didn't work out, but the recurrent theme in all of those interviews that just kept coming up was found family. So it feels honestly like it's much the same here. Wanda and Darcy and creating a new family, a new nucleus, if you will. Or maybe I'm just conditioned looking to
No,
that.
you're not. No, no. I mean, call it found family or call it blended family because it's a little bit of both in the case of Wanda.
Yeah.
The what was important to me, like again, you look, I'm not going to sit here and act like there are not plenty of people that wish that certain things that happened to Wanda regarding her origins were not the case. That being said, as a creator, all we can do is work with what the status quo is. So we need to find the things that are unique and special. And to me, it all came into lockstep in the issue that Al did of Sword. It's Magneto's last dance with Wanda before Trial of Magneto. And regardless of what the biological truth is, he just says, well, you are my daughter. And as someone who has adopted folks in his extended family, when my in-laws family, to be clear, how many times do we as people act like that's somehow not equitable, like how it's somehow not as good as a blood relation, as a blood relation can't completely fuck you, things like that. So this, it's always lemonade, my friend. Like you regardless of what's happened with her origins and things like that, we saw an opportunity. We saw an opportunity for her to be the poster child, the poster character for call it blended family, for call it found family. Because
Yeah.
she's got one of the strangest ones in comics.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, she still loves them all, and it is still family, regardless whether it's her reincarnated kids who were formerly magic constructs that have now reincarnated into different people who have also biological parents that she has to deal with and integrate with. Whether it's her ex-husband making a new wife from her brain patterns and then blending her brain patterns into someone that is kind of her daughter and kind of not. I mean, I could go on. But the key is that no matter how weird it gets, they're still family, and to me that's powerful. And in the same way that um, even despite her might and her failures being kind of like cosmic versus everyday, her overcoming them is a real human journey. Despite how comic book strange her family is, it's a very humanistic thing to say, well, this is family.
Yeah.
It's like we've done the strange comics allegory for something that's very very real, and to me, that again, that's not a detractor. That's an opportunity. That's something that is really really special.
Yeah, I'm always amazed when I interview people who are handling big two books, especially characters that have 50 plus years of history and what they're able to rattle off in terms of. I don't know how you keep track of all this shit. It's like, to me, it just seems bananas. I mean, I know you have editorial board, right? That helps you out with that stuff, but
We do,
they,
but I mean, we do a lot of research ourselves. I mean, edit like our editors are all saints, and to be quite honest, there's so many moving parts in a book. Like I at least, and we try to do a lot of the character based stuff ourselves. Not that they can't look it up and find it out for us, but like they have so much going on,
Mhm.
and also for me at least, I love it. I mean, a lot of us love it. We love digging in and finding the nooks and crannies. So, and Wanda's actually coming up next year, 60th anniversary of her and Pietro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They look
Um,
great. I was on Wonder Woman when she was 80 as well, and she's also looking fantastic.
it's unfair. I mean, I'm almost 50, so yeah, I'm falling apart. Well, I always like to make space to talk about co-creators on a project.
Sure.
So you've got Sarah Pichelli. Am I pronouncing that correctly or close?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay. All
I
right.
think it's Sarah, but she's Italian. Sarah, it's Sarah here. There's no worries.
All right. Well, they're handling the artwork duties on the project. I really enjoyed how the characters are rendered with this, right? There's far less emphasis on trying to make Wanda sexy, right? There are different ways to be sexy. That could be through confidence. I mean, there's plenty of whips. You still have the Dream Queen running around with the dominatrix vibe going on, but like that sex bot image never quite fit with Wanda to me as a character because she's such a tortured character.
Hmm.
Um, so that was really refreshing. So, how did you work with Sarah, or did she kind of run with that? Did you have a concept kind of visually how you wanted Wanda portrayed, or?
I knew well, there were things that were important to me, like trying to giving her curly hair, like she, in my opinion, probably should have, and she did have under George Perez and things like that.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, part of being a collaborator, whether it's with I mean, Sarah is iconic. She's one of the greatest working artists today. But it's not about like, whether, I mean, it doesn't matter if I was working with someone it was the first time on a book. Part of being a collaborator is knowing when to step back and sort of, and as the kids say, knowing your lane. And that doesn't mean you have to stay there. I mean, you can walk all over your collaborators and a comic will still happen, but it won't be as good as what you'll get when everyone involved, not just your visual artist that you're working with, but the letterer, the colorist, and even editorial feels like they're vital and feels like they're respected and part of a team versus just taking orders. So honestly, other than like things that I thought were important for the cultural aspects of Wanda's background and things like that,
Mhm.
I try to give the artists I work with free reign, Sarah included, Russell included, Lorenzo Tomatia included, who just did issue 6. Same with Carlos Nieto from the annual, um, because I try to give them what I want, which is room to do what I do best. For me, that's writing, but of course, for them, it's whatever their focus is. So, I mean, we of course talk about the designs and talk about layouts and things when they come in, but I do really try to step back as a creator. That's how I try to run or act when I'm part of a team, because I do think the work is better. People feel like they're being asked to do their best instead of told what to do, I find that you always get things that are more energetic and more alive.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, you kind of laid out a pretty serious, challenging job for Matthew Wilson, who's doing the coloring, because you're bouncing around through tons and tons and tons of different environments and still managing to also create those quiet, sort of restrained coffee shop moments, right, where you're pulling back to the emporium. So that's a lot of back and forth. That seems like a navigation nightmare. As somebody who's sort of an aspiring colorist myself, that's a lot.
Well, part of it is a conversation. I think that, if same with with Sarah, you try to find out if there's things that people definitely don't want to do, or that, like, then you try to avoid those things. Some artists just have things they absolutely hate doing. And again, they're professionals. That doesn't mean they won't do them. And you can't go there if it's absolutely needed for the story. But it does mean if something is 50-50, you mean maybe you do something that is going to keep them, again,
Yeah.
happy, energetic, so on and so forth. So um yeah, it's a lot of different work for Matt, but Matt is an all-star. He's also an icon. I was very excited when he came on,
Yeah.
and in my mind, at least, hopefully, it is again an opportunity that the book does not become redundant, and but that's my hope. That we keep challenging him and giving him new things. He certainly hasn't hunted me down yet, but we have many issues left, so anything could happen.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Hopefully there's several more trades popping out with this. Okay. It seems like a good spot to take a quick break. Hey, y'all. Jimmy recently scored me a signed, personalized copy of Hallows Eve from Erica Schultz after her interview. You've probably had this problem too. I got this great book. Now, how do I display this thing? Well, I discovered this great product from Crafty Comics that lets you showcase your treasured comics, and they even have options for arty slab books too. I got their Flex Frame, which is amazing as you can customize the backing, and it even has interchangeable border colors to coordinate with your space. I opted for neutral gray to match the blue in my room. You can hang portrait or landscape, and it comes with a template to make it easy to ensure that you get it exactly where you want it. To my surprise, my wife, who tolerates my comic stuff, was actually impressed with the overall quality and look. Win! So if you're looking for the perfect solution to showcase your own collection, visit craftycomics.com online. That's crafty with an I. Use the discount code YETI5 and get 5% off your order. All right, let's get back to the show. Well, Wanda has always encountered her fair share of demons, both kind of literal and mental. I feel like that's a pretty easy transition to sort of switch gears to another project going on that you got with Mad Cave, The Exorcists Never Die,
Yeah, one
which
hell of
is,
a segue.
yeah, I tried. This thing is not your typical somebody dealing with, seven deadly sins. I mean, like, this is fucking literal. You have two protagonists who are dropped right in the middle of squaring off with the big dogs, no preamble, just let's go. So, kind of, where did this rather high octane idea come from? I'm getting Warrior Nun vibes myself, but
Well, you would get no argument from me there. I love that book, and I actually really like the TV show. A friend of mine,
yeah,
David Hayter, wrote on it. Um, so, Exorcists Never Die. First of all, let's talk about the artistic collaborator right away, because Sebastian Perez is. I mean, I was like, I like went into orbit when I found out that he was going to be drawing the book. I've always wanted to work with him. He does it all, except for lettering, and I think it shows. The work is incredible. It's super, super kinetic, and that is appropriate because when Madcape came to me to develop this idea together, I mean, they had a kernel, right? They said they wanted to do The Raid meets The Exorcist, and that's fairly common when it comes to work for hire stuff. So, but they said, well, then then they come to you to let it
hmm
grow, let it germinate. So, um, and as it happens, I love. I mean, I love The Raid, specifically Iko Uwais is like one of my favorite action stars, but I also love exorcism movies. I love the idea, and of course, in those movies, it's usually framed around a specific faith. But I don't really subscribe to that, but I do love the idea that faith in general, even if it's faith in oneself, is kind of all you need, no matter how intimidating, the threat you're facing. Often the heroes of exorcism movies are not necessarily people who are physically strong. They're people who have belief in themselves, or of course, their creator, if you are religious. Your mileage may vary, but it is about a power that doesn't come from physical strength, and I always really, really enjoy that. And that goes for Exorcists Never Die. Of course, they are combat exorcists. Yes, they punch things in the face, but as we see, it's not as simple as that. They have to truly understand each sin and what they really mean in order to counter them. There's an alchemy to the types of angels that they channel and the powers they use. And it's not always the first thing you think of, right? Like it's
yeah,
and through that you find character. When they battle lust, they of course immediately, because of their own perceptions and socialization, think, oh, that's dirty, that's seedy, so we have to counter that with light or something, or but in reality, that's not what lust is, at least not in the lore of this book. It's creation. So the opposite of creation is nothingness. And that's how they find the counter. So through the fact that they have to actually really analyze what these sins truly mean. Uh, yes, they're of course they're still doing the punches and the kicks, but what's behind the punches and kicks to make them effective? Uh, that to me is where the sort of exorcism type content and philosophy comes in, because it's not just about shooting something real good with lightning. It's about channeling the right angels and the right powers, and oftentimes that means really understanding your own self and how you perceive each of these sins.
Yeah, which was a really fascinating way to kind of put together your magic language, I guess, for it. Because it has that rule of opposites that you've been talking about, but it's cerebral. We're not, hey, I'm a fire mage, so let's throw a big fucking fireball at it, all the time, because that's my toolkit, right?
And by the way, like that may happen, but that if that happens, it's usually, I mean, it is there. There's always a philosophical. I'm trying not to spoil the future books, but like when you like the solution for greed, for example, like I was very very proud of when we get there. I don't think the greed issues come out yet.
Okay.
Or like the solution to the gluttony issue, which I think maybe did come out. Um, because my comps come, I mean, for folks who are like, oh, Orlando doesn't know when books come out, like comps usually come like a month after a book hits. So don't come for me for this, folks. There's plenty of other reasons. But you know, once they're weakened, maybe you do end up getting to blast them with your fireball or like your water pressure hose. But if they're vulnerable, it's because of how you've done it. The gluttony issue specifically, like, because I do think it just came out, they to in order to make gluttony vulnerable, they have to accept that something is not going to be theirs. They're going to have to turn down something, and turn down his offers, and turn down when, of course, all he wants you to do is get more. And so, yeah, like I that to me is how we go above and beyond what you've already seen in the genre. And you mentioned my magic language. It is. I'm waiting for someone to note that the third inspiration between The Raid and The Exorcist, and now I will say it, is actually the movie Equilibrium. Like,
Okay.
yeah, the only reason that they weren't called God katas is because I felt like it would be too obvious that I was referencing gun kata. That's why they're God flows. I
Mhm.
also started doing yoga over the pandemic, so I
Okay.
just felt like flow felt like a good word. But I mean, the gun kata and the God flow, I mean, those are literary cousins, so that is definitely an influence as well.
Well, not to ask you to give away anything here, but having read through the first issue there, we've got Sloth, which was in my mind a particularly difficult one to start off with. Is there one that has been the most challenging that thus far? That
I mean, it's all challenging because if we're, I mean, and that I don't mean to like have that sound like a cop out, but I mean, nothing is easy because if it was, you guys aren't getting our full thought process and our full work. Like,
Sure.
that being said, Lust was my favorite, and I can't believe. I mean, I believe I sent you the Lust issue, which was issue 2. I just the fact that we got away with them literally like Lust being a face inside a giant like uterus room was extremely pleasing for me.
Okay, cool. You talk about it. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to give that away, but you did, so it's all good.
Yeah, so that was very very pleasing to me, and yeah, that was the thing, like I'm a Grant Morrison guy, so of course when I realized we could get away with an issue where when you punch one of these demons they like puke out little babies from their zits, I was very happy. But at the same time, that's the thing, like you want to assume, I mean, that's where they first realized that it has to be nothingness, like yes, there's all the innuendos and all that, but at the end of the day, it is that lust creates things. So the only offense that can go around that has to be something that is nothingness based, and that's the type of stuff that I've been very very proud of in the book. And of course, like when you toss this to Sebastian, he turns it into something extremely gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean the armor that they're wearing, I thought was great. It makes a lot of sense. We're moving away from what you classically would associate with the exorcist, either like an old priest or robes, this kind of thing. I mean, these two walk into a Ren fair and they've got the place on lock. I mean, it was really clever, so I like the way that was presented a lot.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, like, and it's only going to get wilder. Like, I'm very excited for everybody to see when we finally meet Wrath and things like that at the very end. Listen, I'm extremely, extremely proud of that book. I was happy that Mad Cave reached out. And by the way, this is one of the beginning of a beautiful, beautiful friendship with me and Mad Cave. Like, there's a lot more coming.
Okay. I mean, speaking of stuff that's coming, we don't have time to get in everything, but I wanted to get in a quick question about Astonishing Iceman, because that's coming out in August, kind of with the Wanda trade. I think, is that right? It's August?
Well, let me cite my previous answer as to why I don't always know when books are coming out. But I can also look it up as you talk. If it's not August, it's already July, so it is August. You're totally right. I was like, my mind was still in June. My apologies. But
Oh,
yes,
it's all good.
we do launch next month, and I mean, again, it's really hard to talk about. I just wish the damn Hellfire Gala issue would come out so that it would
Okay,
like
sure.
everybody had the context. But here's what I'll say. Mutants are the stressors and the stakes are higher than ever for mutant kind, and it's not safe for them to be around each other. And the world is saying, you can't be here. You don't belong here. The thing about Iceman that I think makes him an especially good fit for this era, the Fall of X era, is that he's a class clown, right? And a class clown breaks the rules, and that seems like relatively low stakes. But the thing behind that is that you will do what you need to, regardless of rules, to get a laugh out of someone, aka make them happy, make them feel good. So when the world says you can't be here, you can't be a hero anymore, you can't be around other mutants, Iceman is the first one to say, "Cool, I'm going to do that twice as much," because he's almost allergic to the rules. So here, that's writ large on a global scale, which is perfect for Iceman, someone who has been getting more and more powerful over the years. And like, I am dancing around what happens at the Hellfire Gala, but at the same time, like,
You have to.
I am like, this is the perfect setup specifically for Iceman because he has been a solo hero before. He's being a solo hero now. And it's at a time when that is more dangerous than ever. But when it's more dangerous than ever and the whole world says you're not allowed to do this, that's when Iceman's at his best. So he's going to be around making problems for Orcus. And he's got his guy in the chair, Romeo. And I'm really, really excited for people to do that. And speaking of my collaborators, Vincenzo Caruto is incredible on the interiors, and Jesus Saiz on covers. That's like a bucket list pick for me. So I continue to be very lucky.
Well, and you can actually talk all about this one. You've got Sainted Love, which was recently funded on Kickstarter with Vault, which is a queer, sexy, time traveling romance. Tell me about that one.
Well, it's funny. We pitched Sainted Love before. I mean, well, I shouldn't say before it was topical because folks are always trying to erase queer culture. But it's more topical than ever now. And so this came about. I mean, I wanted to do a book that was both exciting, like weirdly like inspired by the original Doctor Who, where it was science fiction, it was adventure, but at the same time it was casting light on aspects of history that maybe the audience didn't know about. And I'm talking like going back to the 60s. It's pretty much a straight adventure show now, and I still love it, by the way. But like to go back to the original goal, that's kind of the goal of Sainted Love, to thrill folks. I mean, look, it's an action erotica book, so to turn them on, but at the same time, to go places and unveil these little pockets of our own history as LGBTQ plus folks that maybe folks don't know about, and even if you're not in the community, to show folks that to show you that we've always been here, we've always been around. So having two time traveling dudes who are madly in love and casting their romance across the entire time stream, um, their enemy is someone who is trying to erase any presence and any evidence that we were part of the great human story. And it's a David and Goliath story. It's two men against an entire society. But at the same time, again, that feels more topical than it ever has been. And we're going to go to the 50s. We're going to go to the Roman times in the first three issues, and hopefully a lot more places after that as we continue on and on. And again, like outside of everything I just said, working with Geopoda, we have one of the sexiest and naughtiest Studio Ghibli comic books I've ever seen, and I'm extremely proud of Geo. But I'm also extremely lucky to have him as a collaborator. He is a killer. It's one of the most gorgeous books that I've ever been part of. And look, I just can't wait to see it. We were super overfunded. We hit all of our stretch goals. And we're all extremely thankful for that. Now we got to dig in and make this book, finish it up, and get it to print because I just can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see more queer characters in history, and either fiction or actual characters. Josh Trujillo's got the was it Washington's Gay General that's coming out next month. That
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one. That looks like a lot of fun. So, what else are you seeing out there that's inspiring you right now? You said you don't have a whole lot of time to read, so
I don't, and it sucks. I mean, like, but I still make time. Right now, I'm currently reading the of all things, the Alex Garner and Ashley Wood's Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty adaptation.
okay.
Because I went to see Video Games Live, which is a concert series, and I got to reading about I never played Metal Gear, but I got to reading about the stories, and I got to read about this idea that Hideo Kojima apparently frequently is very prescient about what's to come in like the next decades when it comes to the plot of his games. And when I read that Sons of Liberty was about like alternative facts and things like that, I was really excited. So I'm just digging into that, along with what else did I get? I just bought Monarch Star Stalker, which is a Howard Chaykin Marvel book from the 70s.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd be remiss not to mention as well things like The Bear, which I mean, everybody's talking about that show, but I think it is incredible. I just did that, and I just rewatched True Detective season 2 to see if, absent the expectations being like season 1, it was enjoyable instead of a letdown. And I must admit, I did still find it like pulp camp, like the way characters talk, but I did find it enjoyable. So I feel like it was worth a reassessment.
Well, I'm closing things out now with a quick message about kind of addressing mental health in comics. We've all seen how, the sadness of, the comics broke me hashtag spread, with, and writers are now going on strike too. So now more than ever, creators need to carve out that time to take care of themselves, in an industry that at times could be brutal. So, any words of advice from your experience for them? How do you balance all this stuff and keep your sanity?
I mean, I could use some advice, but I will say this: like from the time I was very young, when I first started trying to learn the craft, my mentor told me to treat this like a job, or it'll never be one. And at the time, he meant write every day, which I still try to do, and I have done since I was 12. But I think the other side of that is that like if you had any job that was not comics, you would go home, right? So I will say I don't have a perfect answer because I work 7 days a week, usually at least 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do have a hard shut off, and even that, like I know that when a certain time comes, unless something is like truly on fire, I'm not going to say that I haven't done an all nighter or something. But when at all possible, I try to check out at like 7 at night. I then know that I have like 3 to 4, even 5 hours to spend, do family stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference. And if something comes in that is like you need to answer now or the world's going to burn, yes, of course I'll answer it. But I usually after that I'll leave things for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is a good skill to have, and I think it's a necessary thing to do.
Yeah. Well, Steve, where can people find you online? Where would you prefer that they try to find you online? It's all crazy right now. So.
I'm on everything. If you want to see if I'm on something, I'm the Steve Orlando. So like I'm this, because it used to be easy because I was just on Twitter and Instagram, but now we're waiting to see if Threads or Blue Sky takes over for Twitter before we can put a bullet in it. So on all of those things, I am the Steve Orlando, at the Steve Orlando on Twitter, at the Steve Orlando on Instagram, and also on Blue Sky and on Threads. And those are all great ways to interact with me. I keep my Facebook to myself. I don't even know I don't know if people can message me on Facebook because I was cursed by a wizard in 2017. I'm very bad with technology. But I will probably not respond if it's a business related thing or work related thing on Facebook, because that is like my one little haven for personal stuff. However, everywhere else, I'm very reachable. So I would love to hear from folks, and feel free to reach out.
Oh, good for you for carving out at least a little space for just yourself.
We're trying.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Well, Steve, appreciate you coming on the show to hang out with me today.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, folks, Scarlet Witch is hitting shelves monthly. You can pick it up, catch up on it. It's a great book. I love the direction Steve's been taking with it, and selfishly want to see a lot more. Let's get to issue 50. You can grab the trade in August. Make sure to look for Exorcists Never Die from Mad Cave. And don't miss the new adventures of Bobby Drake in the Astonishing Iceman, wherever he happens to go and whatever you happen to do with it. This is Byron O'Neill on behalf of all of us at Comic Book Yeti. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is Byron O'Neill, one of your hosts of the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by Comic Book Yeti. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It lets us know how we are doing, and more importantly, how we can improve. Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Cryptid Creator Corner, maybe you would enjoy our sister podcast, Into the Comics Cave. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
The snack wrap plus Caesar sauce equals extra crispy chicken Caesary greatness. Sounds delicious. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This summer at Wolf Trap, Lizzo, Josh Groban, Erykah Badu, John Batiste, Tedeschi Trucks Band, James Taylor, and many more. Tickets on sale now at wolftrap.org.
At ZocDoc, we know being a healthy adult is like living in a video game. Every day has side quests, taxes, laundry, birthdays, and just when you're leveling up, you have to book a doctor. The insurance portal crashes, they put you on hold, your doctor doesn't take your plan, game over. We see you, so we made booking a doctor easy. Download ZocDoc, search by specialty, insurance, and availability. Book instantly, no cheat codes required. Find a doctor you love with ZocDoc.